The wind howled like a wounded animal, clawing at the fragile walls of the small wooden house where Alina sat wrapped in a thin blanket. Outside, the blizzard had swallowed the entire town, turning familiar streets into a white, endless void. Snow piled against her windows, threatening to break in, just like the hardships that had followed her for years. Alina was a single mother, raising her 6-year-old son, Sami, on her own after her husband had left without a word. Life had never been easy, but winters like this were the hardest. The heater barely worked, the pantry was nearly empty, and the world outside felt unforgiving. That night, as Sami slept curled beside her, Alina heard something unusual, a faint cry beneath the roar of the storm. At first, she thought it was the wind playing tricks on her mind. But then she heard it again, a small, desperate voice calling out for help. Her heart skipped a beat. Carefully, she stood, wrapping her coat tightly around herself. "Stay here, Sami," she whispered, though he was too deep in sleep to hear her. The moment she opened the door, the storm slapped her face with icy fury. Snow stung her skin, and the cold pierced through her bones. But the cry came again, louder this time. "Help!" Alina stepped out into the blizzard, her feet sinking deep into the snow. Each step was a battle, but she pushed forward, guided only by the faint sound of that trembling voice. A few meters from her house, she saw a small figure curled up beside a half-buried car. A little girl, no older than 5, shivering uncontrollably, her face pale and tear-streaked. "Oh my God!" Alina gasped, rushing toward her. The girl looked up, her lips trembling. "My daddy. He won't wake up." Alina's heart clenched. She knelt beside the child, wrapping her arms around her. The girl was ice cold. "Where is he?" Alina asked urgently. The girl pointed weakly toward the car. Alina forced the frozen door open and found a man slumped over the steering wheel, unconscious. His face was pale, his breathing shallow. They wouldn't survive out here. Without hesitation, Alina lifted the little girl into her arms. "We are going home," she said firmly, though fear gripped her heart. But she wasn't leaving the man behind. With every ounce of strength she had, she dragged him out of the car, her hands numb, her body trembling under the weight. The storm raged around her, as if trying to stop her, but she refused to give in. Step by step, she pulled them both toward her home. It felt like an eternity before she finally reached her door. Inside, the warmth, however weak, felt like a miracle. She laid the man near the heater and wrapped the little girl in blankets. Sami stirred awake, his sleepy eyes widening in confusion. "Ami, who are they?" "People who needed help," Alina replied softly, brushing his hair. The little girl clung to her, whispering, "Don't let him die." Alina looked at the unconscious man, her chest tightening. "I won't," she promised. That night, as the storm raged outside, 3 lives hung in the balance, and none of them knew that everything was about to change forever. Hours passed slowly, each one heavier than the last. The storm showed no mercy, and neither did the fear in Alina's heart. The man's condition worsened. His breathing was uneven, and his body remained dangerously cold despite the blankets piled over him. Alina had no medical training, no proper supplies, only determination. She heated water, using old cloths to warm his hands and face. She remembered something her mother once told her: when someone is freezing, warmth must come slowly, gently, or you can lose them. So she worked carefully, whispering prayers under her breath. Beside her, the little girl refused to leave her father's side. "My name is Lila," she said softly, her voice shaking. "I'm Alina," she replied gently. "And this is my son, Sami." Lila nodded, her small fingers clutching her father's hand. "He promised we'd get home." Alina swallowed hard. "He still will." But inside, she wasn't sure. As the night deepened, Sami quietly brought his only toy, a small stuffed bear, and placed it in Lila's lap. "For you," he said shyly. Lila looked at him, surprised, then hugged the bear tightly. For the first time since arriving, a faint smile touched her lips. Alina watched them, her heart aching. Even in their struggle, kindness still found a way to shine. Suddenly, the man groaned. Alina froze. His fingers twitched, his breathing deepened slightly. She leaned closer. "Can you hear me?" she asked softly. His eyelids fluttered open for a moment before closing again, but it was enough. "He's waking up," she whispered. Lila's face lit up with hope. "Daddy." The man managed a faint murmur, barely audible. Tears filled Lila's eyes. "I'm here." Alina felt a wave of relief wash over her, but she knew they weren't safe yet. The storm still trapped them. Food was scarce, and the man needed proper care. But in that moment, something shifted. They were no longer strangers. They were a small, fragile family, bound together by a storm that refused to break them. When morning finally came, the world outside had transformed into a silent white desert. The storm had passed, leaving behind a stillness that felt almost unreal. Inside the house, however, life stirred. The man awoke fully, his eyes opening slowly as confusion flickered across his face. "Lila," he whispered. "I'm here." She cried, throwing her arms around him. He held her tightly, as if afraid to let go. Alina watched from a distance, a quiet smile on her lips. "You're safe," she said gently. He turned toward her, his expression filled with gratitude and disbelief. "You saved us," he murmured. Alina shook her head. Anyone would have done the same. But he knew that wasn't true. Not everyone would have stepped into a deadly storm for strangers. Not everyone would have risked everything. "My name is Daniel," he said, his voice still weak. "I owe you my life." And hers. Alina hesitated. "You don't owe me anything." But Daniel looked around the small, worn house, the patched walls, the nearly empty shelves, and he saw the truth she didn't say. She had given everything she had to save them. And in that moment, he made a silent promise. He would never forget this kindness. Never. Days passed, and the snow slowly began to melt. Daniel regained his strength, but he remained unusually quiet, often lost in thought. Alina didn't ask questions. She didn't need to. She had learned long ago that people carried stories they weren't ready to share. But one afternoon, everything changed. A convoy of black vehicles appeared outside her home. Men in suits stepped out, scanning the area. Alina's heart raced. Daniel stood by the door, his expression calm. "It's okay," he said softly. "They are here for me." "For you?" she asked, confused. He nodded. Then, turning to her, he spoke words that would change her life forever. "I'm not who you think I am." Daniel wasn't just an ordinary man. He was the CEO of a powerful company, a man with wealth beyond imagination. But none of that mattered to Alina. She saw only the father who had nearly died, and the little girl she had held through the night. "I didn't help you because of who you are," she said firmly. Daniel smiled. "I know." And that was exactly why he would never forget her. Weeks later, Alina stood in disbelief as her life changed. A new home, a stable future, education for Sami, opportunities she had never dreamed of. But more than that, she gained something priceless. A bond, a family. Lila ran into her arms, laughing. "You're part of us now." Alina held her close, tears in her eyes. Sometimes, the coldest storms bring the warmest miracles. And sometimes, saving a life changes your own forever.